Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today's video has been highly requested, so I'm going to be sharing with you all about my very first bikini prep, actually my only bikini prep. I did a bikini competition to celebrate my 100+ pound weight loss journey, and it was a wonderful time. However, there was definitely ups and downs, things I liked, things I didn't like, things I would do differently, things that surprised me, and I figured I would take you through the entire journey and share with you. I actually found my journal from when I was competing and I kept track of everything. So I have a reference point. I competed in 2020 and I did a 16-week prep. So my show was March 27th and I started prep December of 2019. And yeah, I have all the information here. I'm going to start off with kind of my thoughts, why I chose not to have a coach, things that surprised me, things I wish I did different. I'll share pictures and videos kind of throughout the video of when I competed. And then after all of that, I will go through and share with you week by week what my calorie intake was, what my cardio looked like, what my workout routine was like. And hopefully this helps you if you're thinking about competing for the very first time. It gives you a little bit of insight. Hopefully you can learn from my mistakes and get a little motivation. So starting off with the coach situation, I chose to not have a coach for a couple of reasons. One, I had already lost a significant amount of weight without a coach, and I felt I knew my body really, really well. Two, I could not find a coach who has prepped somebody for a bikini competition who was familiar with keto and insulin resistance and such a significant weight loss. I only found coaches who were trying to reintroduce me to carbs, and I didn't want to go that route. The third reason is because I was taking it seriously, but it was more of a celebration for me than like an introduction to a competitive sport that I wanted to continue doing. So I didn't take it as seriously as some of the others, meaning to me, it didn't really matter what I placed. I just wanted to do the best I can, get all glammed up, do the competition to say I did it, and then move on with life. I really wasn't trying to get nationally qualified or anything like that. So the federation I competed in was the NPC, and I actually did that show with my husband. My husband did this same show, so we prepped together at the same time, which was good and bad. It was good because we were both dieting, so we both understood that, things like date nights and stuff would have to take a back seat, but we were both hangry at the same time. So that was interesting. I really think we did a really good job though. We stayed pretty positive throughout the whole thing. So let me talk for a second about the positive things, the negative things, and then the things that really surprised me about the bikini competition prep. So positive things, you learn so much about your body and the way it works and how disciplined you can be. Your hair looks amazing, your skin looks amazing because you're eating so healthy and so clean. And even if you are prepping by yourself, you end up making really amazing friends because you connect with the girls that you compete with. I have a few of them that I competed with that I still talk to regularly, and I love having them in my life. Some not so great things, regardless of what anyone says, it does take a toll on your social life because in most social settings, such as birthday parties or gatherings or pool parties or whatever, barbecues, you can't always eat what they provide. And if they do provide something that you can eat, you have to measure it on a scale or in measuring cups and log it into your food app, and literally nobody else there is doing it, so you look like the weird one. Or to avoid that, you can bring your own food to the party that has food, which is also weird. So in social settings, it can be a bit difficult. Also, people will start to argue because they don't understand. They're like, well, it's just chicken. And I'm like, well, yeah, but what else did you put in it, And so it's just socially, it can be a little rough. There towards the end of prep, you do get pretty hungry and your energy is pretty low. And shows can be expensive. You have to pay for your membership to your federation. You have to pay for your bikini, your practice bikini. You either have to pay to get tanned at the show, or you can buy the tanning stuff to tan yourself, which is what I did because I wanted to be in control of my schedule and tan myself when I wanted to. You also have hair and makeup to consider. Again, you can do it yourself like I did, or you can pay somebody to do that for you. And then you also have the competition jewelry and the competition shoes. However, even taking into account all of the downsides, it is still all absolutely worth it. I am so glad that I did it. I'm so glad I stepped on stage. And when you're on stage, usually the people cheering for you are your family and friends, whoever comes to the show. But I will say I had like one golden moment where I was doing my individual routine where you walk out and you do the walk and the poses and stuff. And the host is saying your name, saying a little bit about you, where you work out, if you have kids, if you're married, just whatever you want to share. And then he got to the point where he said, and she lost 106 pounds to step on this stage today. And the entire crowd cheered for me so loud. And that was just the best feeling. I felt so supported and so much love, and it was really fantastic. A few things that surprised me. Number one, I did get so lean to where I actually did lose my period. The last period I had was at the very beginning of February. My show was at the end of March. And I did not get my period back until June. And so that is some kind of survival mechanism where your body's like, you do not even have enough food for you. You cannot make babies. And that's pretty common. It happens to about half of the girls that compete. The other half, they never lose their period. For me, I did. And it came back eventually. I didn't really mind it, but it was definitely surprising. I didn't think that I was going to get that lean, but I did. The second thing that surprised me was how creative you get with food whenever you have certain macros to deal with. Like if you are really trying to fit things into your macros, you get really, really creative with the kind of meals you cook up. The third thing that I thought was surprising, and I have had quite a few questions on this, is that the stage tan, number one, is a lot darker than I thought it would be, but everybody is that dark because the stage lights are so bright. And two, it does not cover up stretch marks. I was kind of hoping it would. It absolutely does not. So from far away, you can't really tell so much, but if you zoom in or if somebody was like standing right next to you, you can absolutely tell. So you can see here, I've got stretch marks on my hips. You can see my surgery scar from when I got loose skin removed. I have stretch marks going up to my belly button. I've got loose skin on my arms. And, you know, you can just kind of see all of it, and it just is what it is. The good thing is it does not count against you on stage. The judges will not penalize you for having loose skin or stretch marks or scars or anything like that. It's just that I was kind of hoping it would all be covered up, but it wasn't, and that's okay. Okay, now I'm gonna go week by week, just kind of quickly, and then I will kind of unfold for you what I remember of the day before the show, and then show day, and the day after show day, and then kind of what I did post show, because that's an area where I think a lot of people aren't sure of, is they, you know, have this specific fitness goal and they get to the stage and they do this great thing and it's a big accomplishment, and then they're like, and now what? So I did this entire prep keto. So I did have keto macros, with my protein being a little bit higher than the traditional keto because I was trying to put on some muscle, and I had never weightlifted before. So I didn't have any muscle to like give me a head start. I was immediately cutting and trying to build muscle at the same time, which you can do. It's just not as effective, but you know, it gave me a good physique and I was happy with it. So my macros were 5% carbs, 30% protein, and then the rest was fat. So I'm going to be reading from my journal here. So week 1 started the very first week of December, and my calories for that for the first 4 weeks was 1,700. So 1,700 calories for the first 4 weeks of prep. And I would do an upper body day, a lower body day, and then a rest day, and then upper body, lower body, rest. And I continued on that cycle. The first week I did no cardio. The second week I did 10 minutes every day. The third week I did 15 minutes every day. And the fourth week I did 20 minutes every day. By week number 5, I dropped my calories to 1,500 and I was doing 25 minutes of cardio every day. Week 6, I was still at 1,500 calories, but I was doing 30 minutes of cardio every day. Week 7, 1,500 calories, 35 minutes of cardio. Week 8, I dropped down to 1,400 calories and 40 minutes of cardio. And I never went above 45 minutes of cardio. 45 minutes of cardio a day was my max. And I never went lower than, it looks like 1,400 calories primarily, but I threw a couple of 1,200 calorie days in there. So let's see. So yeah, week 8 was 1,400 calories, 40 minutes of cardio. Week 9 was 1,400 to 1,500 calories with some 1,200 calorie days thrown in there based on how I felt, and 45 minutes of cardio. And I never went above 45 minutes of cardio. And by this time in prep, I really had to go on how I felt. If I felt really good that day, I'd push myself as hard as I could. I'd eat less calories and do more in the gym. And on days when I felt really sluggish, I would allow myself to bump up calories maybe by 100 calories, and I would just do less cardio. From there all the way through week 14, I was between 1,500 and 1,400 calories. Again, never going above 45 minutes of cardio. And it looks like it was actually a 17-week prep. I thought it was only 16. It was 17 weeks. And all the way through, 17 weeks, the lowest I ever went on my calories was about 1,200, but most of the time it was around 14. The 1,200 were just random days if I could fit them in to help me cut a little bit more and lean out more. And then peak week, which is the week of the show, I actually increased them by 100 to 150 calories, just to start kind of filling back up because I was very depleted, and I definitely needed to fill those muscles back up. And then March 27th was show day. So really quick, I'm going to go back to the beginning and kind of share what my weight did week by week as well. So I started my prep at 134 pounds. Just for reference, right now, I usually sit around 135 pounds, tends to be my maintenance. However, it looks a lot different. Like back then, I had absolutely zero muscle mass. And now I do have some muscle on me. So even though it's the same weight, it does look totally different. So I was 134 pounds on day 1. So by week 2, I was 133.2 pounds. By week 3, I was 128 pounds. Week 4, I was still 128 pounds. Week 5, I was still 128 pounds. And that can start to mess with you because you're like, I'm doing literally everything right. Why isn't the weight falling off? And sometimes your body fights you. Sometimes it doesn't react the way you want it to. And that's why it's important to give yourself a little bit more time in your prep that you think you need. So that way you have time for these plateaus and you can make adjustments if you need to. So it wasn't until actually week 8 when I finally lost some more weight and hit 127 pounds. And then week 9, I was 125 pounds. Week 10, I was 124 pounds. Week 11, I was 123 pounds. And then week 12, I was 122 pounds. So now my body's reacting. I'm consistently losing weight every week. But then I stayed 122 pounds until week 14, where I was 121 pounds. And then by week 17, which was peak week, I was 118 pounds. So the day before the show and the day of show. The day before the show, I packed everything up that I needed. I got my practice suit, my actual show suit, which I got from a brand called Angel Competition Bikinis. I had my show heels, which are just basically clear, tall stripper heels. And those were from the Shoe Fairy. And then my competition jewelry, I think I just got on Amazon, which is just really big, dangly Swarovski crystalled earrings and bracelets as well. I also brought with me everything I needed to do my own tan. I used a company called ProTan, which I would highly recommend. None of these brands are sponsoring this video. They're just brands I was really, really happy with. And then, of course, I had to pack the food that I needed for the rest of the day and the following day because I did go check into a hotel. I had to travel a little bit for my show. And yeah, the day before was really just packing everything. the day before the show, you're pretty much done. Like there is no more muscle that you can build. It's all about just maintaining the progress that you've made. So then we got to the hotel, to the venue, and we checked in. We made sure we got our athlete badges and buttons that we would wear on our suit, got checked into our hotel room, and then I put on my very first coat of tan because you put it on overnight and it gets dark. And then I put on a second layer in the morning, and then my like third and final layer right before I got on stage. I also did my own hair and makeup just because I like to have control over things. And then I went backstage about 2 hours before we were supposed to get on stage, before my bikini class got on stage. And the only reason I did that is just because that's what other girls were saying they were going to do. And this was my very first show, and I was competing with other girls who had competed a few times. Now, one thing I would have done differently is I wish I would have pumped up backstage. So basically all that is taking some dumbbells and pumping up your shoulders. So doing that workout to get the blood into certain muscles to make you look better on stage. And I was told by one of the girls, oh, don't worry about it. You've got so much time. It's going to take forever. And then all of a sudden the usher was like, okay, time to get on stage right now. And I was like, so I didn't get to pump up at all before going on stage, but that's okay. So then basically they bring you out a line of girls and you do your poses. So you've got your front pose, and then you transition to the back pose, and then you hit your front pose again. And depending on how the show is and how the show goes, you usually get your chance to walk out on your own. So the judges are completely focused on you. And I will say, anybody that goes on stage, regardless of what you placed, you are a winner in my eyes, because you are literally stepping on stage to be judged by your physical appearance and compared to other women. And I feel like most of the time that is not the situation in your day-to-day life. So it can be a little rough. You just have to go into the show with that in mind, that everybody put their best effort into looking the best they could for this show, and it's all just friendly competition. I ended up coming in 8th out of 14 competitors with no coach. I felt pretty good about that. Another thing I would have done differently is maybe not get quite so lean and focus a little bit more on building muscle. But again, like I said, I had no muscle definition to begin with. So really it was just whatever muscle I was able to put on during the prep. Then after the competition, I went out to dinner with my husband and some friends, and everybody talks about their post-show meal. It's like the one thing you were really craving that you just couldn't have during your prep. And while it may seem cliche, for me, it was a burger and fries with a milkshake. It was the thing I wanted most. Oh my gosh, let me tell you. And so usually I wouldn't have a burger and fries or milkshake because none of that stuff is keto. But after that accomplishment, after stepping on stage and 17 weeks of clean and controlled eating and counting everything that I ate, I wanted a cheat meal. So we went out to a place called Zen Burger. I ordered this really fancy gourmet burger and french fries and a milkshake, and it was absolutely delicious. I took like 3 bites of my burger, maybe ate 3 french fries, and had like a bite of my milkshake, and I was done. I was so full because my stomach was like this big. But it was delicious. It was so tasty, and I don't regret that at all. It was the best. Now, after the show, I was kind of hit with like this, well, what now? Because I had a goal of getting stage lean so I could step on stage, and I did that. And then it was like, and now what? Because I understand that being so meticulous with your food and tracking every single thing every day and measuring everything out is not sustainable. And so I did struggle for a couple weeks because it was almost like that became a way of life, and I didn't know how to break away from that, especially because I knew I didn't have another show coming up. And right now, I don't have any plans to compete again, but if I did decide, because never say never, if I ever did decide, I would definitely vlog the entire journey for you guys from start to finish so you can kind of watch live what is happening. But yeah, I had to kind of retrain myself to eat intuitively and eat when I'm hungry and stop when I'm full, and learning that it's okay to eyeball things. Like, I didn't have to measure out exactly 2 ounces of goat cheese. I could just have what I thought was 2 ounces of goat cheese. And that was hard for me in the beginning. But, I just continued the principle of clean eating, and I was just less strict with it. And then I got to the point where I put on a healthy amount of weight. I went from 118 pounds to 135. That's where I tend to hang out. And it took me a couple months. Like I said, I didn't even get my period back till June, and I had lost it in February. So it did take time to slowly put on that weight and get my body back to a good place again. And yeah, ever since then, I've just been doing what I feel is best for my body. Another thing I might do differently now that keto seems to be a bit more mainstream. I feel like in 2019, it wasn't really there yet. Like, it was kind of still known as a fad diet instead of a way of life. If I could find a coach who was familiar with the ketogenic diet and familiar with insulin resistance and wasn't trying to push me to reintroduce carbs before I'm ready or in an excess amount or anything like that, then I would definitely consider using a coach. The thing is, I enjoy eating a low carb lifestyle. However, because I'm not prepping for anything, I will absolutely enjoy an occasional, date night with a piece of cake, or, if it's somebody's birthday, like, I'll have carbs every now and then, but it's definitely not an everyday thing. And I feel like every coach I talk to is really trying to push me in that direction, and I didn't want to go there. So yeah, that is what bikini prep was like for me. Like I said, I started this prep in 2019. It is now the beginning of 2024. So it's been a while, but that is what I remember. I'm glad I kept this journal so I could actually see week by week what my body was doing, how I was eating, what I was doing in the gym. And if you have any other questions that weren't answered in this video, anything about the prep, the tan, the workouts, anything at all, just leave a comment with your question and I will absolutely respond to it with an answer, because I want to provide as much information as possible. Please consider subscribing to my channel if you found this video helpful. I have many more exciting videos coming soon, including a mini cut that I will be treating close to a competition cut, but not quite as strict. I have that coming up early next week. So here in just a few days, I am going to be starting and vlogging my mini cut, and I will explain why I'm doing that in that video. I hope you have a fabulous rest of the day, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.